bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there. Morten! He's been knocking on the door. He knocks it down.
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on SiriusXM FC.
Welcome into a new show of USL All Access. It is Tuesday night, and with Devon Kerr and Emmett McConnell, Mike Watts, ton of news around the league, results, but most notably earlier today, the news that Morton Karlsson has stepped down from Orange County. He's going to go take over Lyngby, the boldest of bold clubs in all of Denmark. We'll have Morten Karlsson on the show later today, live from passport control at the Danish Embassy in Southern California. Also, the 8-game win streak for Indy 11 is over. Rhode Island picks up their biggest win yet as a team in the championship, which regrettably isn't saying all that much, except for the fact that it does. We also chat about Devon's excellent jersey choice during this Copa America week. Devon, welcome back, buddy. That U.S. jersey is from what era? That looks like Kobe Jones would have worn it.
Well, that's a good shout. But no. This would have been, I think it's the 10 practice jersey.
Hot, so hot right now.
I think they wore it as a third maybe as well. See, this one, I like this one because I got it as a gift from my buddy who was in my wedding. I had the white one. It's got Deuce on the back. For the record, I'm undefeated in both this one and the white one. I rotate through the jerseys and I really only utilize the unbeaten when necessary, but I felt like keep the momentum going, work on the result that was, 2 nights from now, got another game. Just keep it going,
Yeah, why not?
Keep it going. Keep it going all the way to Denmark because apparently we have a friend to go visit now, and I can't wait to go there.
We do. Let's chat about Morten Karlsson here. Yep. We're going to chat with him later in the show. We've already taped it at this point, and I can tell you it's great. We're going to miss him, to say the least. One of the really great guys that I've had the opportunity to speak with consistently in the championship. So he's going to Lyngby. That's a side that narrowly by one position evaded relegation in the Danish Superliga last year. It is a big club in Denmark. He only played 15 games for him. He played for a number of teams in Denmark. Orange County was paid a fee, we're told. The manager took over in a difficult spot for Orange County. Richard Chaplow's side, 2 wins, 7 losses, 4 draws early last year. They finished 15-4-2 with largely the same team. Now, they did get a bit healthier, and time heals a lot of wounds. Ultimately, for Morton taking over at that time, it was a big ask. But this is a chance for him to go home. He once told me, I said, hey, man, how's Southern California? He arrived as an assistant in January. He was lifted to head coach come early May. And you enjoying surfing or whatever. And he said, look, my family's not here. This club is my family right now. Ultimately, he leaves with Orange County in a better position. They made the playoffs, made a run last year, tied for playoff position at this current juncture with, frankly, a lot of injury woes. Jordan Chavez is on a 25-day deal, and Ryan Flood is most definitely not a center back, and that's who started to upset Indy on the road last week. Paul Hardiman's going to take over. Dev, your thoughts on the whole maneuvering?
Certainly a loss for Orange County. We talked about it earlier on in the show. We're going to discuss it in the interview for sure. You alluded to the fact that we've already recorded it, and I said earlier this year, now mind you, we were 6 games into the season at that point in time, and I was very specific about the time frame, that he just provided such good structure for a team that was drastically in need of it. People always talk about the new coach bump, right? It's not necessarily new tactical ideas. It's structure, it's vision, it's direction. Having someone walk into a locker room with a different voice mic saying to you, this, not that, when that isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, it's not that we don't want to attack this way, guys. It's that we want to prepare this way instead. And some of those ideas just help revitalize in a locker room. And that's exactly what Morton Karlsson did. He has such a positive positive. That's the most important thing you want to talk about here. Mentality about him as a person that is contagious. Every single time you step into a room with him, you get on a call, Zoom, there's going to be laughter. He's going to make fun of you and of yourself, which is the best thing, right? Those are the best relationships we have, where you always know something good is coming right around the corner from Karlsson, and he's going to be lost. You wonder what it looks like for Orange County going forward. I think people are probably looking, going, oh, well, they're at the right of the playoff line in the West, and they've struggled recently. Yeah,
Everyone
sure.
is.
Everyone is. It's the Western Conference. I mean, I'm looking at the table as we speak right now. There's still 6 points from 3rd to 11th. That's an absolute joke. You're talking about 2 games. It's still the same team that was unbeaten through 6, that only had 1 loss through 8. That team will be just fine. With the talent, I don't know the interim enough to comment. Obviously, we don't have that type of relationship, but certainly a loss for Orange County for the USL Championship. But I'm excited to see the opportunity for him, because the most important thing you're going to take away from him is the relatability aspect of being home, and a chance for he and his family, his little ducklings, as he calls them, to travel back home, get around family, feel more comfortable, and then just continue to chase the dream in a different fashion.
Yeah, well, it all came together so quickly. He couldn't even find his passport, which is a whole different kettle of fish. I'll mention it in the interview with him, but he released the beers is one of the funniest things I've ever heard on a coach call, and you and I have done thousands of these.
Yeah. By the way, the passport thing was interesting to me, and I want to ask you this question, because I talked to a producer who was in a similar predicament. When you travel abroad and you go out for the day, do you carry your passport on you?
No, I put it in the safe.
100%. Do you carry identification?
I don't do that either.
Okay, well, that's a little bit.
I mean, I carry my wallet, so I guess I'm
your
carrying
wallet
an
has your
American
license in it.
driver's license. Yes.
Exactly, which is still a federal document, which can still be recognized, at least what was taught to me during my time in Germany, can be recognized as a government, as a form of ID, just not necessarily the official one, certainly not to travel. I put my passport away, too. I talked to a producer who was beside himself that was the case. They said, no, I have to have it on me on all times. I go, dude, you lose that, you are up the creek, because not all of us have the ability to have the magic man around the corner at the Danish consulate, right, to be able to get us back home.
He turned the camera and goes, this is my savior.
This is excellent. My savior.
Excellent.
And by the way, I got to do an interview. Can I hold off signing for those forms, please?
I do have, and I'm in between whether or not I'm going to post. I do have a screenshot of him physically signing the document.
So good.
That's him leaving, bud.
So good. So good. He goes, maybe it's a conspiracy to keep me here. It's like, yeah.
Great job making Lyngby pay double. And he doesn't get his passport until you know.
And by the way, you know what one of my favorite portions of this interview was? That was for you. Mine was the understanding when I mentioned the little ducklings. He was referencing his family. When he talked about the trek from LAX back to the Uber lot, to then go back to their apartment. I was like, oh, man, I don't want to do that by myself with a carry-on. And you got all these people following you.
7 bags.
That is, they talk about the loneliest walk in sports, from midfield to the penalty mark 12 yards out. I got to
the LAX Uber lot.
It's a pretty lonely walk from LAX to the rideshare lot.
It so is. So true. All right, Dev, we got a couple other things we want to mention here. Indy streak is over. We mentioned 1-0 loss to Orange County. Colorado Springs, their 9-game unbeaten run does conclude late penalty against New Mexico that we'll chat about a little bit deeper. Here's one. You wrote it, rare sighting in the wild, Rhode Island winning. Look, Louisville at home was perfect this year, fell 5-2. In some ways for Rhode Island, this was coming. We did a stat for a game 3 weeks ago that they had led playoff teams for something like 100 to 150 minutes and not won any of those games. In that sense, they were eventually going to get that big victory at some point, and they did. Louisville, 3.5 expected goals. You end up conceding a couple, and you go chase the game, which if you're at home against a team with a propensity to drop points, why wouldn't you? For Rhode Island, first win in over 2 months. And for Cano Smith, kudos to you guys, man. That was coming. Conversely, for Louisville, that one was a little bit of a shocker. The the 5 goals conceded, like, would you have rather they lost 3-1 and not gone for it? Like, sometimes you pay a price for that, and they did. But I can't say I'm exactly worried about it.
No, I'm not worried at all. A couple of different viewpoints from my angle. I would say number one is it's almost poetic in nature that Rhode Island, through everything that they've been through and the games where they have been the aggressor, the better team, made silly mistakes, conceded late, dumb fouls that turns into crazy dead balls that get whipped in, and it's the go-ahead goal for the opposite team or the tying goal, that they take down Louisville at home and the number one team in the Players' Shield race. It's not that it's a long time coming. It should have happened multiple times already. They've been good enough, Rhode Island, and we've discussed that regularly. Mm-hmm. There were a couple things for me just historically for Louisville that I thought were quite interesting, because I don't take anything away from the loss except for the fact that it's a loss. They created, they did enough, they conceded in moments. Yes, certainly Danny chased the game. Danny Cruz, head coach of Louisville City. I agreed with the decisions, and it just didn't go your way. Sometimes the magic's not there, right? There are other times where you're going to be down to 10 men fighting an uphill battle, down 2 goals, and you're going to win 3-1, right? Or 3-2, excuse me. I've been in both sides of it. It's Rhode Island's first win since April 20th. Okay, great. They had 5 different goal scorers, which was awesome. But for Louisville, first loss on the year, which makes New Mexico United, as we're going to talk about later, the only team in the USL Championship that is unblemished at home. They have 6 wins, 6 up, 6 down. Peter Trevisani has created another fortress in the lab. Louisville's concession, though, 5 goals against, ties for the most goals given up in a single game in club history. The last time was last year on April 1st when they lost 5-0 at SAC. The 3-goal margin of defeat is the 4th worst in team history. It's only happened 6 other times. Remember, not giving up 3, but actual 3-goal margin. Listen to this. Louisville have played, and this is incredible at how efficient they have been over the years. Since 2015, in all competitions, Louisville have played 342 matches. They have lost by 2 or more goals only 25 times. 7% of those outings have resulted in a loss of 2 or more goals. Mm-hmm. It's one thing to talk about their success, but when it hasn't gone right for them, they are not that far off. I understand that we're kind of gloating about the loss, but it's just, I think it speaks to the testament of what that organization is, what they've created. And that number is pretty crazy, man. I love your comment on the bottom of it, though, on our format, which shows us what we're going to talk about. Concern level, 0. Wipe 0%. The slate clean, move on. You're still 7 points ahead. 7 or 8 points ahead now. 7 points ahead.
5 on Charleston.
Sorry. Yeah, my brain keeps jumping because I keep thinking of when it was 1 atop and SAC was atop the West. Apologies. 5 on Charleston, 7 across New Mexico in the Western Conference. Keep moving.
Yep. By the way, coming off a brutal 1-0 game at Pittsburgh midweek with like 45 fouls on turf. That Danny will never say that. Louisville will never say that. Those miles add up. While we're talking about Pittsburgh, we've got a moment for the king. Kenardo Forbes, now the all-time leader in regular season appearances, 278, passes the great Jan Ekra to do so. Already the minutes and the assist king in the league. One of a kind. Pittsburgh was a skid mark in this league until King Kenny and Bob Lilly showed up. That was, regrettably, they got run over consistently. I'm happy for Kenny. Deserves this. He really does. Go ahead. It's funny.
Such
a
delightful way to describe that scenario that was. But
Sorry,
you're right.
Man.
Yeah, you brought over. Everybody talks about Bob Lilly. They should, but you can't mention one without the other.
Yep.
Truly. And I'm not doing a disservice to what Bob Lilly had in terms of success prior to Kenardo Forbes, but King Kenny, we've discussed this at length. Mount Rushmore and USL Championship. I joked underneath when it came to assists, because he's currently sitting on 65 and still running away with it, that probably would have been double if it was that hockey assist. Certainly MLS gives it out, but he's always been the guy behind the guy, the ball before the ball, and yet still creates that type of success. You talk to any players that have been with him, his work rate every single training session, every single game, pushing you, others around him, the embodiment for a manager of what you want out of stability within your system. And that system has changed a lot under Bob Lilly. Canardo Forbes has never wavered. Kenny has always been there. He's been the guiding light for so many different teams, so many versions of success. And are people going to break these records? Yeah, maybe eventually one day. I don't know. But it would be hard-pressed to think about ever removing Kenardo Forbes from the conversation of one of the best to ever do it in USL Championship history.
No doubt. King Kenny. King, again, regular season appearances. Morton Karlsson's the new head coach at Lyngby. He departs Orange County. It all happened in like 3 days' time. He's going to walk you through the whole process. A remarkable interview upcoming. It's next here on USL All Access.
Let's get back to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everybody, to USL All Access on this Tuesday evening. We spoke at length in the opening segment about the groundbreaking news that occurred, came out this morning from Orange County. Morten Karlsson is headed back to Denmark. He's going to take over Lyngby in the Superliga there. Spent about a year as the head coach for Orange County, was established as the full-time head coach after an incredible interim stint last year, made a great playoff run, and now he gets the chance to head back home with a giant club in his native country. Morten Karlsson, kind enough to join us here as he makes his grand escape from the country. Morten, appreciate it, man. It's wonderful to see you, and congratulations on the good news.
Thank you so much. The country won't really let go of me, so I'm struggling to get my passport to leave. Maybe it's a sign, I don't know. But yeah, I've really enjoyed competing in the USL. I've really enjoyed, especially working with a lot of good people in Orange County, and that's definitely for me the hardest part to leave behind. But also looking forward to new adventures.
Morten, you speak about a new adventure. It felt like this came about really quickly. Can you walk me through the timeline of what this looked like? Because let's not forget, on Saturday, you guys ended Indy 11's 8-game winning streak. You haven't exactly been twiddling your thumbs of late either. It's been a pretty busy stretch for you guys. How did this all come about?
Yeah, so it was more or less 2 days before our Indy game. It came up. So, of course, I had to kind of take care of that, see how much we could pursue it and speak also to Orange County. So at the same time, managing a game in Indy in extreme heat and also on the backside on a couple of losses. So a lot going on in my mind and nobody really knew. So you could say the emotional stress was high. Yeah, and then we finalized everything on, I believe it was Sunday. I can't really tell now all these days, but I think it was finalized Sunday, and yeah, now heading back to Denmark. So it was tough saying goodbye to the guys yesterday, I must say.
Coach, obviously an incredible opportunity put forth in front of you, an opportunity to go home, reestablish yourself with a club that you spent about 2 years with. I remember when I had the opportunity to go abroad, it was easy because I was 22 and a half years old. It's easy to pick up your bags and go and chase a dream. You're still chasing a dream. That dream, though, comes with baggage. We joked before coming on that you've got your ducklings and you were kind of getting everybody ready for the trip home. Walk me through what that decision-making process is like. Tell everyone that you get this call and the opportunity is there, but this is a home of sorts. And while you're going home, it's not as easy as people think where you, as you alluded to, you just drop everything and go. How does that decision-making process play itself out over that 48 to 72-hour period?
Yeah, one, it goes really, really fast. And I could also feel all the considerations and all the emotions regarding, stepping into a new adventure. It's my hometown. Being close to my daughters again it's also a big factor. but first and foremost, it's a big opportunity also for my career, which I'm always chasing. But it's definitely I wouldn't say confusing, but it's a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts, because you say goodbye to a place that you really love being, with people and a club and fans and everything. You know, I've had so many good experiences here, and just to leave that, it's probably the hardest. And I don't wanna say that a job is just a job, but you're just changing your position to another club. But for me, it's all the relations and the connections you have built up with people over the time. So it's a little bit challenging in the head, but it's also interesting and exciting to start a new chapter with. I know a lot of good people in Lyngby Boldklub as well. So I'm right in between right now, but I'm also looking forward to set my bags down in Copenhagen and get ready to work.
Coach, you took over in May of last year at the helm, and then they made you the official one moving into 2024, official head coach after being interim caretaker, however you want to phrase it. It's not a massive window, but for me, and I mentioned this before coming on, I've certainly alluded to this on the show a couple of times. I love the passion behind the group, what you brought into these guys. Such a structured unit that allowed the guys to have this free-flowing football that saw you start this year 6 games unbeaten, only 1 loss through 8, did against some very impressive competition. I guess where I'm going with this is, in terms of the USL Championships view, we don't know what the future holds, whether it's you staying across the pond, if it's an opportunity for you to come back, if this is the last time that the USL Championship sees you at the helm of a squad or within a team. What do you want to be remembered for your time at Orange County and the results that you guys brought forth and the style you played?
Well, yeah, probably to the words that you've already put to it. When I look across the USL, I see a lot of talent. Where I'm from, which is Denmark, there's a lot of structure, a lot of, you could say structured football, which also for me helps the players develop their individual skills. One is to compete, of course, and win games. But underneath that, you also have a responsibility of developing players in the best possible way to their highest potential. And for me, that shows when players know what they should do. I've said to the players several times, my end goal is that every player thinks alike in every situation. I know it's probably impossible ever to reach that level, but that's kind of my end goal. It's a collective game. Football is a collective game, and within the collective, there's a lot of individuals that some are better than others at dribbling or whatever. But for me, hopefully to have put a little bit structure, energy, passion, and chasing your potential. I think that's I think especially in football, it's important to have that.
Well said. Love that. I don't know if you'd ever be able to get a goalkeeper involved in that conversation about everybody seeing the same thing, because they are a weird breed. But the other 10.
Yeah, that's impossible.
Bold Club, Lyngby. Let's fast forward to the future a little bit, and you've won the Danish Superliga, right? You guys have moved into Europa League, Champions League, whatever it is. I want to kind of compare the two leagues now, and maybe even more so just what the future of the USL Championship is. Let's go 10 years down the line. In your opinion, for a positive change, the biggest difference of what we'll see in the championship 10 years from now compared to what's at play right now would be what?
It would definitely be the passion around the games. It's great. Like, you guys' show also highlights how many people love the USL. But for me, it would be like the infrastructure, around game days. What kind of pitches do we play on? Are the pitches watered? The facilities and infrastructure around it. And then I'm hoping also a lot of USL clubs will start to recognize the value of a good academy. talent development of American football is definitely an area to improve, in my opinion, because I believe there's so much potential here that gets lost in private coaching, etc. Blah blah blah. So hopefully it will be better infrastructure and more strategy towards talent development, because it's a great platform for young players to play in.
Morton Karlsson with us on USL All Access. Have a couple, I guess these are leading questions in some ways. Did you bring all your skinny jeans with you back to Denmark, and can you wear those on the sideline there? Is that frowned upon?
Don't patronize him.
I left a pair for you, Mike.
Yes.
So I only brought 4 pair, so the last pair is for you. You can pick it up at Orange County Fan Shop.
Thanks,
no, I'll bring them. I'll also get smoked for him back in Denmark, but I don't care. I'm 45. I can wear skinny jeans.
Yeah, I think my arms might fit in those, but I don't think my legs can. But appreciate it. Do you plan on learning a different language to speak to officials after games? If English and Danish don't fly.
I was actually thinking, I was so close at the last game against India. I got a yellow card. I was thinking, no, you can't do that this game. So I'll probably have to. I really, really want to learn Spanish. Haven't really gotten to it. I only know the usual words and the words that the players have taught me. And it's not the good words. I can tell you that.
They're the best words, Spanish, just not the words that we can share.
Yeah,
exactly.
Morton, you spoke to the connection that you formed with people in Orange County. What's the message that you leave to their fans? Because, again, this did all come along rather quickly. Yes. Ultimately, usually, you get through a season and another opportunity comes along. The international calendar as it is, this is the chance to jump and make the move to Europe and to go home. What's the message that you leave to Orange County fans, if you could speak to them now?
Yeah, I would like to express my gratitude and my thank you for their support. It's a lovely club that they have, and it keeps growing. So the support has been fantastic, and I want to say thank you to them. I will be back for a game to see Mr. Hardiman in charge. And support the club, and I will support the club also from abroad. It's the club is in my heart forever. It's been a true pleasure. And then my last thing is just to support and push the team into the playoffs and hopefully win the championship with a new leader in charge.
You guys had an unbelievable comeback on a night in Orange County. It was a beer garden night. And I asked you what the difference was in the stadium, and you said everybody was drunk. And I said, can you recreate that? And you said, release the beers. And it's maybe the favorite line I've ever gotten from any coach call in my time. You were always so kind and humorous in moments that called for it, and serious in moments that called for it. I'm wishing you all the best in Denmark. Genuinely a big fan of yours moving forward. So really appreciate you taking time with us.
Thank you. I really appreciate talking to you guys as well, and all the best. And I will follow your show. I will follow the league from afar, and then hopefully I'll see you again one day.
Sounds good. Coming up next week, we find out if Morton got his passport. That's coming up. We'll also take a look at the results from the weekend next year on USL All Access.
Giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everybody. USL All Access on this Tuesday night. If you missed any part of the interview with Morton Karlsson, it's available on the SiriusXM app tomorrow, as well as the USL YouTube page. That's Devon Kerr, Mike Watts. Let's go through some of the results of the last week. It was a busy one. Not the least of which we had a CBS Sports Network game. We mentioned it earlier. Pittsburgh and Louisville, 1-0 Lou City away to Pittsburgh. 4 games on Wednesday, but we're going to pick up most of the action that occurred on Saturday, which was a pretty loaded slate. Dev, Monterey Bay and Oakland finished 2-1. It was in Seaside. Oakland attempted 20 shots. This wasn't for lack of effort. 2.5 times the expected goals, about 2 XG. They got yalloped on the day. Look, give Gavin Glinton a lot of credit because his roster wasn't exactly full either, but you start to talk with Frank Yallop, and all of a sudden, no Dawkins, Chase Boone is down for an extended period, Luther Archimed is out for the year. They don't have a lot of attacking options left. They admitted they're looking at the loan market, but still, to get that win, overcome the volley goal on the long ball from Hackshaw to Rodriguez late and hang on, pretty impressive.
Massive win, 100%. I would say that you and I can probably both agree, given what we know about teams' roster spends, that if it was going to be anything, it would be a loan, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, quite ironic that earlier today you and I were having a conversation about the 9 spot, right? And if we were looking at teams that drastically needed one in the USL Championship, it has to be Monterey Bay. I would still say that Baca is certainly the key to all this, which, friendly reminder, although they do get the result, and they will be without him on the weekend, they did miss him for 4 games prior and didn't pick up a single win throughout that time frame. So I'm with you. I think a 9 is necessary 100%, but Baca is everything for me within that team. The belief, running the midfield, to me, it's the perfect replacement, if not better, and we can talk about that when we get to the preview about Detroit and Birmingham, of a James Murphy in the midfield. And just the calming presence, the person that can go and execute, that has the ability to evolve in the system. Striker, yes. Frank Yallop. I don't think I've ever heard you use that term to me, by the way. You got Frank Yalloped.
You got Yalloped.
It was, though. Oakland was better. That's
they
okay.
Were.
Okay.
And Monterey Bay still, on the day, created enough. It was enough.
Yeah. Louisville created enough. Didn't go their way. Talked about that earlier, right? Just didn't go their way. Sometimes there's no magic in the cards. I mentioned it last week, though. Talked about how much I like what's going on with Oakland. There is something to be said about belief within the team. And this was one of those games where you just kept going and going and going. And though you didn't get over the end line, I was happy to see, the mental tenacity of Oakland, because we've seen them in other games prior, not just this year, but in previous years, where it's they let 1 go, they let 2 go, they fold from games. That didn't happen in this match. They'll be just fine.
We're only a month away from Oakland playing Sacramento on CBS, so if you're unfamiliar, get familiar. You'll understand the roots in no time at all. The other ESPN2 game on Saturday was Phoenix and Charleston. Quite simply, if Fuenmayor nods this, gaping chance right in front of goal, right? 0.89 expected goals. Ball smashes off the post, and look, it's coming back across his body. I don't think he's aware how much time he has behind him. Just trying to get something on the ball. It goes wide. That was Phoenix's big chance. Ultimately, they settle for a 0-0 draw at home with Charleston in the championship rematch. There were some moments there where it was pretty clear that there was some juice left over, even though there's been a lot of changes between the two teams. The Battery are now 5 winless, which is their longest run since the end of 2022 into the start of 2023. They do get their 9th clean sheet, which leads the championship. Phoenix is now 4 unbeaten. And the conversation I had with Danny Stone leading into that game was in part acknowledging everything they lost over the offseason, right? Trejo, Arteaga, Harvey, King, ultimately all 4 players that wore the captain's armband last year gone. And then, yes, the manager. And with that, your assistant coach steps into the manager role. There's a hole there in preseason. And your strength guy doesn't show up until 5 weeks into preseason because you're having a visa issue. So, nothing has been standard with Phoenix this year. But they do get Remy Cabral back, which is positive as well.
Do we want to talk about off the field or on the field first?
Go for it.
Okay.
Dealer's choice.
I'm going to stay on off the field because I think you make a really, really good point, Mike, about the amount of moving pieces behind the scenes. I'd go a step further and let everybody recognize the fact that this just isn't a Phoenix Rising 2024 issue. This is a good problem to have, but it's still a problem. Their front office, technical area, support staff is poached every single season. It's a great compliment to the organization, but whether you're a trainer, whether you're an assistant coach, whether you're the head coach, a front office member who does photography, all of these people have been poached by other organizations within the USL Championship, by MLS teams, by the United States national program, both men and women's. You don't just replace those people. That's plain and simple. All of this, it truly does take a village. And if you've never lived the life, all of these little things add up. As a player, you get used to certain tendencies with the player next to you, with the coach, with the assistant. It stretches far beyond the 90 minutes in the field of reach. And when all these things start moving regularly, it's hard to maintain a rhythm. The same sort of rhythm that we saw a team run off 20 wins straight in 2019 on the field. Remy Cabral, I do feel, I said this at the beginning of the year, I'll say it again, 4 games out, am I not mistaken? 4 or 5, right? I do feel that he has the capability to go and score goals up top. No question whatsoever. The injury doesn't help. I do think that the level of creation needs to get better within the final third. Some of that's going to come with Cabral. Some of that's got to come with confidence and a gut check at the door as to whether or not you want to be one of those guys to go help and create. But I want to read you some numbers here. And I kind of had an idea of, remember last year, everybody was talking about this. And while I think last year, the beauty of what was on the field was better than what we're seeing right now, everybody was up in arms about what was going on in Phoenix. Mm-hmm. So I just started thinking about, what did the numbers look like then? Fortunately, I didn't have to dig too deep, and I have to give a little credit here to John McPherson. It goes by @JohnMCP66, and here's why. He did the dirty work for me, and he tweeted something out about the club. The relationship, or the comparison, from 2023 to 2024. I'll read 23 first, 24 second. Standings, 8th last year, 6th now. Wins last year, 5 now. Draws last year, 7, 6 now. You catching the rhythm here, the theme? It's all very similar. Losses last year, 4, 5 now. Goals last year, which is obviously going to be the biggest one, 22 goals for, only 17 for. 5 goals makes a world of difference. Certainly, we can make that analogy when it gets to the Pittsburgh Riverhounds here in a second, because they're struggling attacking-wise too. Goals against, 21 last year, 16 this year. There are so many similarities between this team, it's scary. Again, the product last year, I liked better. I wouldn't say I would have bet my house on it, but from midseason on, you and I were always saying, they have the ability. They have the ability. It can get better. I'm not as determined in my statements in 2023 as I will be right now, but I will still say there is too much talent on this team for them to not turn a corner.
Phoenix ends up getting a draw, their 4th straight without defeat. Again, to your point, they remain right around that playoff line. It's that very complex log jam right around 21 points.
What does Brendan Burke call it? Wet, unmitigated disaster? Absolutely. That's the Western Conference.
I mean, we could talk about Hartford, but we'll save that. New Mexico 1-0 against Colorado Springs, Dev. It does end that crazy impressive unbeaten run for the Switchbacks. They also just went to New Mexico and took them to the 92nd minute and went to penalties with the team tops in the West. It was Talon Maples at 90+2. A little bit of redemption to that. 11,000 people in the stands. I actually saw, I want to say it's Matt Doyle, but a substantial sort of voice on social going, Eric Quill has already proven he's a high-level man.
Oh, yeah.
At this point.
Remember when we talked about like the vacant spot in Dallas? And I mentioned that the idea came from Matt Doyle. I think it's a great shout.
Yep.
Do we care about the Colorado Springs loss? No.
Not really.
We don't. That team's fine.
And the irony is, I was about to say playing at altitude as if you're not playing at altitude at home in Colorado Springs anyways. The reality is, like,
they didn't get that burning of the jet fuel through their lungs.
No, but it was fairly even.
Agreed.
It was a fairly 100%. Even game. It was a good championship game.
Reminder, the only team now remaining in the USL Championship who is unblemished at home, New Mexico United. 6 up, 6 down. Perfect 6-0-0. Wow. Do we still call it the lab, or because their dominance, especially under Eric Quill, it's not back to the old days. It's better than it's ever been. Do we need a new name?
I'm fine as is. I appreciate a good laboratory.
Okay. We could just call it the laboratory.
Indeed. DD. All right.
Peter Trevisani, the owner of New Mexico United, is sitting somewhere going, how do they let them keep coming back on this show?
It is staggering. And I'd say over the airwaves, but this is a satellite, playa. Everything's fine.
Here's a good question for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to influence, and obviously New Mexico United is doing better. I just like the comparison of players. Who do you like better in the midfield, Baca and Monterrey or Micheletto and New Mexico?
They
Be fun
do
to watch them
different things.
together, by the way. They do different things.
Yeah.
Be fun to watch them together, man.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of those ones when an all-star game ever came around, which we don't know anything about that. But if it did, like those two guys, ooh.
Who's more important to their team this year?
Baca.
Yeah.
Not even a question.
No question.
No.
But I've seen Micheletto play at a really high level, and I've seen him get X'd out of games.
Yeah, I haven't seen that from Baca.
No.
Although I would say this about New Mexico, and here's the biggest difference. In New Mexico, this is going to come out weird, but let me finish. You have that luxury where you can lose that piece, and they have the quality around that team and around him specifically where you can still get that ball-winning chance creation, moving forward, distributing type player. You don't have that luxury in Monterrey. You can't recreate ideas or the idea of what once was from Baca with another player. We've seen it already this year. It's just it's not possible.
Yeah.
If there was I got to stay here for a second. If there's an all-star game, is it an East-West conference, or are we picking players and there's a draft like in the NBA, and who's coaching?
If we were going to pick players, we would pick players to play against the international squad a la MLS.
So, like, your best 23, we'll call it, or 30.
Yeah. I think if they ever went that route, I think it'd be that. Regrettably, I think I can count on one hand the number of markets that would sell out their venue to watch a USL All-Star game at this point, I think. Maybe two hands.
We could do it out loud, but I don't want to offend anybody.
No.
Let's do it anyway.
No, I'm sitting that out. Dev,
Agreed.
Couple other results we should hit on before we head to break. Miami and Loudoun finished 2-2. It's 8 winless now for Miami. They now have lost 13 points from a leading position this year. Rhode Island 14, El Paso 18 have lost more. That's an expansion team and a team that fired their coach already. Enough said. Led 2-0 Lopez Lawrence, and then put it in neutral. Loudoun 2.5 XG. Abukora and Bidwa scoring back-to-back in the second half. A little bit of a problem there for Miami. Low-key, sometimes when they play, you're like, wow, all right, I see it. And then they get ahead, and they just don't hang.
No, to me, it's about experience within this group and lack thereof. There's just not enough. I would say that's from the top moving down. That's not to say that they're not talented and they're not capable of getting results, but it's about experience. Because, look, you take this Loudoun team in what year is it? From 2019 until 2022, basically. And Ryan Martin didn't have the horses. He didn't have the depth, and he's got that now. You've got Zach Ryan up top in the 9. Are you kidding me? Like, guy that came flying out of college that is more than capable. He's been through the go-around, and more importantly, he's been through the runaround with that organization. Those guys that have just gotten there or that have been there, they're not interested in the BS of hanging around through matches anymore. They got game winners. That's all it is. They're a better team. They have game winners. And here's the defining stat for me, because the numbers are actually quite similar, oddly enough, because it's a 2-2 draw as well. Play off of that. The difference here, Loudoun, 3 more wins, 2 more draws. If that's not signifying of a group that's willing to go and find a way to eke out a result, positive for a point or 3 points, I don't know what is. 5 different games where they've been able to push themselves over the line.
Loudoun unbeaten in 5, longest run since right before the COVID pandemic kicked off, dating back to October 19 into March of 2020, if you can believe it. North Carolina and Pittsburgh finished 0-0. The Hounds now 456 minutes without a goal. They've been shut out 9 times this year. Is that as big a problem as it feels like?
Yes. It's let's start with the bad. The bad is certainly their attacking side of the ball. I've never seen it as anemic as this. That's for sure. I don't think the group is bad, Mike. I would say it. We all know that. I would say that this team is ugly. They have no vision. I could make comments about that, like a Miami team that's struggling like that. I don't see that for Pittsburgh. Number one, they're in every game. The funny thing about this scoreless streak is that they've also only given up 3 goals in the last 4 games, which means they're still defensively doing a really good job for themselves of finding ways to make sure that they carry proper structure to me, that shows a foundation from Bob Lilly that these guys know how they want to play. In the final third, there are a couple of things that trouble me. Number one, I think they lacked width in transition consistently. The pickup by Musha Galusa can do that. Like, I do think Enoch can help them within the attack. He's a different profile of player. He's not a target 9. He gives you the ability to kind of attack from outside in. People are going to look at his numbers and go, oh, well, things didn't go well in Louisville, and then they loaned him to San Diego, and then he showed up in Hartford. Friendly reminder, we are not even 2 years removed of a guy marking in 13 out of 32 games.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty solid number. Yep. So Bob Lilly did admit on the record that they're always looking. Bob, that's kind of Bob's answer. We're always looking. We're always looking for the next player that we can add, but it's got to be the right fit. And while I agree with that, do think that they need something else on the width to help them. The question's going to be is, will they veer away from this idea of just running the 3-man triangle, flattening things out? Again, the balance from the wingbacks just hasn't been there. Excuse me. So they get caught really deep as they go. 2 strikers pinch in, or they don't work off of each other right. All this space on the outside is just sitting there. So Enoch can help you a little bit. But in the attacking side of things, they've got to start to change some patterns of play. I would like to see the ability to maybe add one more within the midfield who's comfortable. That could be a wingback who can invert a little bit in modern day style football, or the ability for the wingbacks to just get consistently higher, push some more pressure to allow one of the midfielders to step up. Right? I mean, I don't know. There's, again, it's a different conversation than Phoenix, that's for sure. But there is talent there. Like that group. We talked about Kenardo Forbes and everything that he's done for this league, for himself, for that organization, and for Bob Lilly. I'd still put him in my corner any day of the week. Robbie Mertz, similar conversation. They should be fine. They need help in the final third.
Yep. All right. A couple other results. Tulsa and Sac finished 0-0. Sacramento's 7th clean sheet of the year, second to Charleston, most in the league. And then Las Vegas and Memphis finished 1-1. Season high 546 passes for Lights. Now 5 unbeaten in a row. However, a lot of draws. And Bruno Lapa. It's Bruno! Unreal. Half field goal. Dev, is it really a half field goal if it happens at Cashman Field? That's like a quarter field goal.
Still 55 yards.
Counts. 43rd minute. Helps to play maybe on a smaller patch of grass from time to time, but Bruno knows what to do. All right, when we come back, we'll take a look. Detroit City and Birmingham is on CBS Sports Network, 7 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. Preview the match after this on All Access.
You're listening to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC. Here are your hosts, Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everybody. It's USL All Access. Miss any part of the show, it's available on the USL YouTube page tomorrow, also on the SiriusXM app. Devon, let's close out the week with a look ahead. Detroit, Birmingham, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern time on the CBS Sports Network. Detroit back-to-back wins. Birmingham only 2 goals conceded in the last 6. Look, both teams coming at a good moment, all things considered.
Hearing some rumblings behind the scenes about personnel that's going to affect this game. We'll see from both managers, to be fair. I don't want to allude to anything too much because this is obviously coming out 24 hours prior. I think Detroit has done really well for themselves attacking-wise of starting to take steps every single game. We talked about Elvis Amo up top in the 9 last game out, the work rate that he gives you. I would say that the versatility that you get out of some of these players, midfield relationships, and just an aggression that's trying to push them into the next level, now you got to be more efficient. That's where they're at. Better sequences, better patterns. But they're going to be matched up against, in my opinion, one of the top 5 defensive teams in USL Championship right now in Birmingham Legion that every single year is so sound on the back line. Good goalkeeping, good defending. Can be a little bit intermittent on the outside, but the midfield has done really well. They've got to get that front 3 going. That it's plain and simple. Prosper Kasim, the responsibility they're going to give Enzo Martinez in and out of the midfield, and specifically Tyler Pasher at his best. That's one of the most electrifying players in all the USL Championship. Get those 3 guys going, you'll find success, and they could find themselves in a top 4 spot eventually.
Dev, mailbag, would Bolivia win the USL Championship?
No chance.
Did you learn anything this week?
I learned that it is possible to have a personal emotional reaction even when I don't get to spend as much time as I would like to around someone. Morton Karlsson. What a great person that we're losing.
Yep, and I learned his skinny jeans will fit just fine. For Devon, Emmett, Mike, enjoyed the time with you this week. We'll talk to you again next Tuesday night. So long for now.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.